Hi, I'm Dr. Bertice Berry, and I want to tell you a story. It's a complicated story, and I'm going to try to uncomplicate it for you. Most of my life, I've worn my hair natural. It has been like this for the last 6, 7 years. Prior to that, I wore long dreadlocks. Sometimes every 5 years, I would cut them short. Most of my life, I wore dreadlocks. I probably wore them for a little bit over 40 years. Prior to that, I wore braids, and prior to that, it was just out as it was, but it was not chemically treated. And when I say chemically treated, I mean relaxers, so that you can relax your hair, so you can make it straight. It's often referred to as a perm. It's not permanent. You have to get it done like every month and a half, every 2 months, and it's expensive. It's really expensive. There's a tendency for some people to say, oh, I've had a perm. I know what you're talking about. No, a perm for white women makes your hair curly. A perm for black women makes the hair straight. In fact, the difference is one adds texture to the hair. The other one, for black women, strips all the natural curl and protein out of your hair. It strips everything away. You'll often see people whose hair has been burned away by those chemicals. Most black women, over 70%, perm their hair on a regular basis, with some starting as early as 3 years old, having their hair permed chemically with really, really harsh chemicals. Why is this done? Well, if you go back from the time of enslavement, black women were forced to wear a head wrap whenever you were out anywhere off that plantation, and very often on that plantation. It was seen as an affront to whites to have to see a black woman's hair. This beautiful hair that stands up in coils and greets the sun in the morning was somehow seen as an offense to others. So there's this long history in our society with our hair. And we have adopted the standards of those who have oppressed us, those beauty standards, those who oppressed us for ourselves. And we say things like, she has good hair. In other words, good hair is hair that is more white in its texture. It's softer, it's straighter, it's easier to comb. It is complex, it is difficult, it is painful, and it is hard because those chemicals burn. If you've never seen Chris Rock's documentary, Good Hair, you should see it. There's some language in it that I don't like, so I'll warn you ahead of time. And I don't mean the cussing language. I speak that language. There's some other language that I don't like, the use of the N-word. Anyway, these chemicals are used on a regular basis because we're taught that in order to be beautiful, your hair needs to be straightened. It needs to be something else. And so in addition to straightening, we put in weaves, we wear wigs, but the weaves are attached. They're sewn in to the hair and sometimes glued onto the hair. And it is painful, but there are sayings that we have, pain before beauty, that our standards of beauty or someone else's standards are amazing. And throughout my life, because I've worn my hair in its natural state, I have been discriminated against. And I try very hard not to discriminate against people who don't wear natural hair, because I've been really discriminated against by other blacks because I wear my hair naturally. Now, before you think we are crazy, think again. Today, 21, there are 42 states where it is legal to discriminate, for an employer to discriminate against a black woman or a woman of color based on her hair. 42 states. In other words, there's only 8 states where it's illegal to fire somebody or discriminate against somebody because they wear their hair naturally, the way it grows out of their head. I don't know if you're understanding me. It is legal in 42 states to fire someone for their hair growing the way it grows naturally. And we're told and taught, if we're going to succeed, if we're going to get ahead, if we're going to make it in society, You have to straighten your hair. I have been told over and over and over again. My television show was canceled because I refused to cut off my dreadlocks and wear a wig so I could look more normal. This thing sounds so crazy that you go, no, surely that can't be. And some of you are pulling up the story the time you had the bad perm and you're like, oh, I know what that's like. You have no idea. The pain, the torture, and I don't mean emotional pain, I mean physical pain, the torture that a black woman, a woman of color, anyone with kinky, curly hair goes through to be so-called accepted by a society that already doesn't like her. You have no idea. But you can begin to find out. What is so painful is that we use these standards from the same folks who oppressed us against one another, and then we stratify within, and we determine whose hair is good and whose hair is bad and whose hair is really natural. And well, your hair is not natural because you color it. Did you use henna? If you didn't use henna, and what are you doing with that bonnet on your head, and why are you doing that? We use these same someone else's standards, people who don't like you, who oppress you, against one another. Closest thing I can get to with white women doing that is that you refer to each other by your hair color. Oh, she's a brunette. See that blonde over there? That's kind of crazy to me. But it's not as crazy as what we've done in the name of beauty when the standards are not even our own. It's deep, it's complicated, but it's not like you can't find out. I love you. I really do. And as crazy as the world is, I believe we're going to get there.